How is audio adapting to the corporate world?
I jokingly call it the boring audio, right? Everybody thinks of going into, music and production or recording or being a famous musician. And QSC, our business touches those worlds too, obviously. But actually, the biggest part of our growth is in the meeting room space, right? And corporate meeting room space. And so, but no one grows up and says, I want to work on conference rooms. No, everybody says, I want to grow up and I want to play in a band, right? So I love it that QSC's got that diversity in our business, though, that we see both. And we obviously started with roots with Pat Quilter 51 years ago. He started this company. And it was obviously all around guitar amps, but they had to realize they couldn't make money with that either. And then that's where we became, the world's premier amplifier company way back when, And we reinvented ourselves so many times. And I think this industry is full of really bright people, not just QSC. And I see us reinventing as an industry ourselves again. And it's being driven by the corporate meeting room space and that new customer being an IT person, not your classic facilities guy who would think about the projectors and the where to put speakers, but more of a software IT person.
Who in the corporate world is thinking about audio?
I think it's actually people who are IT technicians. It's the IT managers, which I used to be back in the day, by the way. So I came at this industry through IT. I think you're, by the way, seeing, I was an early one to do that, and there were a few others, of course, but I think you're actually seeing more of that happen now, where IT people are really, they love all this stuff. I mean, look around this trade show floor. Would you rather look at big digital signage boards and really cool technology, or would you rather sit in front of a computer programming a switch? I mean, both have value, but I think IT people are really, they've gotten to that point now where they see AV's got a lot of value to it, and I think you're going to see more interest and hunger to learn what we know. And I think it is that IT manager, IT technician, and I would even argue to say that the new C layer in IT is also becoming more aware from that groundswell in their own organizations, where they can't just think of it in IT terms. So there's a little bit of give and take going on, where before IT was like my way, all my way, and didn't like AV's approach. Now they're, I think, realizing, at least in the talks that I do with customers, that they have to learn a little, but we have to learn a lot. AV has to learn a lot, because like it or not, IT is big. It's the sun in the universe. We're just one of the little moons around a planet. So there is, I think, a lot more onus on AV people to really learn the approaches, and that's what QSC is doing. I mean, under the leadership of our team here, we're looking out at how do we really please our customer, because at the end of the day, that's how we all are going to be successful. And if that customer's changed, we have to change.
Who in the corporate world is specifying audio? Are they having to work with consultants, or are they doing it on their own?
I think you're seeing both. I mean, it's always been a bit of that across the decades. I mean, you have organizations that have in-house AV and IT departments, and the dirtier secret is that they end up hiring integrators from projects, and then they build AV teams. And by the way, since they have nowhere else to put those people, they put them under IT. And so I think there's this natural cross-pollination happening that way that I see out there, where as these large, especially large multinational corporations, they can't rely on a single integrator to cover the globe for them. And so they need both in-house talent that they acquire from integrators, and then they partner in the field, right, with those local integrators. So I think that's who's really driving the specs now. And yes, there's consultants involved, but they've already been adapting their business. Like consultants, I see the ones of the future are, and the ones you see today. Like look at Scott Walker at Waveguide. I'll put a shout out to him. I think he's a great archetype of the new consultant who is not just hands off, not just boilerplate specs. That's all 20, 30 years ago. The new approach is really thinking about a service model, and really managed services gets talked a lot about. And it's a holistic approach to problem solving with your client. And I think that's the kind of consultant that works well with QSC too, by the way, because that's our approach to the market. Our sales channel's that way. They're very consultative, very problem solving. And it's less about trying to drive techs and specs. It's really more about a business outcome. And that's where I think the new consultants and even the new integrator, as you see integrators adopting that approach. So we're already changing, whether we are fully self-aware that we are or not. We're already being driven by that big tug of big IT, and it's changing our approach.
How does IT see audio? You just sometimes get the impression it really doesn't care as long as it sits on a network.
Early on in my career in AV, I came in as an IT guy, and I realized AV people, whenever you said IT, they immediately thought about the network. That's all they could see, is this monolithic thing, the network. I think it's almost a psychological effect of, it's scary, because the networks aren't, well, they're starting to become more understood, I think, in AV, thankfully. But back then, it was like, all they thought of IT people as is the network guy. In reality, in my reality as an IT person, that's just only one discipline in an IT shop. I mean, you got desktop services, you got OS, operating system people, you had storage people, you had people designing networks, supporting the network, two different camps usually. So for my mind, it was, how do I get the company I'm working for, at the time was Buy-In, but now it's here, how do we enhance our understanding of IT and the multifaceted concerns they have? It's not just about the network. In fact, we wrote an article about that when I first got here, about not just the network. There's a lot of factors. And if you look at it as expressed in a product, look at QSys. It's an off-the-shelf server with an operating system called Linux and QSys. And by the way, it's network-based too. So it's exhibiting the multifaceted nature of what IT has to concern itself for. And it's not just network security, it's also OS security, separate things, interconnected. So as an example, you see products being impacted and shifted in the way they are consumed by IT people, and that changing as well. And I think QSC is one of the first to get there, which is, by the way, why I'm here, because I love our approach, being software first. And I think that is one thing that, generalized speaking, IT people care about, it being a software approach, more agnostic, not so purpose-built, and they want to go fast and take chances. They want better technology, they want it to be mainstream, they want it to be understandable and manageable by them, and that all inherently makes your product change. And that's where QSC is headed.
It's interesting. It's extraordinary the way audio companies have developed, isn't it? I mean, you expect them to be acoustically driven and more purist, and the last thing you expect them to be is software driven.
And if we can do it, the rest of the industry can do it. I mean, we were a 50-year-old audio amplifier company, and here we are, here I sit in front of you talking about software. I mean, talk about a massive reinvention, right? So, and I think it comes down to getting the right talent, the teams that we worked with. QSC, before I was here, had the foresight, the leadership, including our owners, who, by the way, are audio people. These people are building guitar amps. Pat Quilter has an amplifier company now. He finally got to do it. Yeah, he's doing guitar amps. But QSys, our software product, it was conceived in 2005 and 6. And that was 10 years ago, by the way, this show. So we have a big birthday party for QSys tonight. So 10 years in the making. And it's really just this last 3 to 5 years that we've really caught fire. So we really are seeing a lot of success in our business. But it takes investment, it takes patience, it takes understanding, listening to your customer, learning your customer. And I think that's what this industry can do and reinvent itself, just like we have.
How do your customers perceive audio?
In any transition or change, you lose something to gain something. You can't have both. And where I'm headed with this is that AV people, especially audio people, I'll say, we love music, we love high fidelity. I mean, like we were talking before we got on camera, I build amplifiers, I love hi-fi, I'm a vinyl geek, I love all that stuff. But when it comes to my work life and the new customer we're serving, remember, these are people who have grown up with the MP3, not records, not tube amps, none of that, or valve amps in the UK. These are people who think a pair of earbuds are as good as audio gets. And you know, to be fair, I think you're seeing a resurgence though, even in that group. So I think we have we have some blessing there happening in the industry that we do have a lot of young people coming in who are getting enamored with good quality audio. But what I'm driving to here is that we have to kind of let go of our own belief system that audio quality is what drives the customer experience and what they want. It's got to be good enough. I know that's kind of heretical to say in audio camps, but remember, these are conference calls. These are speech band audio. These are not high fidelity audio. So I'm not by no means saying that we should let our quality go down, or that we should build products that aren't good sounding products. But we have to be really careful that are we really embracing what these customers care about? And if we can give them good quality audio and teach them that along the way, all the better. But we have to first start where they're at, and they are at the good enough. And IT people are notorious for this. They care about deployability, they care about manageability, they care about supportability more than they care about what it sounds like. And they're more interested in intelligibility, which is different than audio quality, as we think of it. So I think those are some learnings that I'll share that I think are driving at least how we think about product development.
How are future products developing? And are you going to be entering into any more partnerships like the one you have with Dell?
Well, I think we've already stepped forward into that space, and that is instead of building purpose-built hardware to do audio processing, QSC is the first in this industry segment. There's others in other IT segments that have done what I'm about to say, but in this segment of AV, we are the first to actually build a operating system up and run it as the audio processor, truly. And therefore that OS and that software that's in it can be portable to run on any off-the-shelf Intel-based hardware platform. And that's therefore our connection with Dell. We took that step back in 2016 where we kind of did it to prove to the industry, really, that QSys really is what we've been talking about along, a true software-only product. And I think what you'll see us do in the future, I know you'll see us do in the future, is going more and more off the shelf for our processing hardware and teaching our integrators and our end users why that's important, what's in it for them, and then how to configure, manage, and deploy products like that the way IT people have for the last 20 or 30 years. So, baby steps, but we want to be a leader in that space. We want to transform this industry for the benefit of all of us. And obviously we have a skin in the game too, right? We want to see this world come on, and we're seeing it happen. So to be very specific, you'll see off-the-shelf hardware partners like Dell become more of our primary hardware processing, and you're going to see QSC even further evolve to be more of an endpoints company, where we're not getting out of the hardware game. We have to worry about it still getting back to the analog squiggly line. All of us have ears and eyes, so we have to get that there. But we don't think we're adding value anymore building hardware that does processing when we can go down the street and ask Dell to give us a product that's so much better than we can even build. Or I'll just challenge the whole industry that any of the industry can build from the ground up. And that's not where our value proposition as an industry is anymore, if we embrace that new customer and their desires, and we relearn and reinvent ourselves. So that's where QSC is headed in a product sense and philosophy sense.